Before we begin Unit 18, here is the answer to the Unit 17 question. The best answer is choice B.
The exponential population growth of our species, along with the fact that we often underestimate the amount of fresh water that we use, has led to a freshwater crisis. Only a small percentage of the Earth's water is freshwater, and there are two sources of freshwater: surface water and groundwater. Although new technologies such as desalination plants are being developed in order to combat the problem, sustainable water use remains the only solution to our freshwater crisis. Unit 18, Buried Treasure.
Not only does the Earth provide a place for its organisms to live, it supplies all the materials that life needs in order to exist.
All matter, biotic, living, and abiotic, non-living, is made of elements and molecules, and the Earth can be thought of as one gigantic general store, full of these substances.
The materials that organisms need in order to build their bodies and support life are called nutrients.
Those chewable vitamins that your mom gave you at breakfast are really small, specifically selected and measured pieces of earth, mixed in with a tasty sugar base.
In order to understand how important these substances are to life and why we must take care to ensure they remain available to all living things, we must first gain an appreciation for the field referred to as geology.
Geology is the study of the earth and the physical processes that take place on its surface and in its interior.
Our planet is not solid throughout. The core, a solid sphere surrounded by semi-solid material, is located at the center of the Earth.
Above the core is a thick layer of rock, referred to as the mantle, whose lowest region is partially melted and can flow.
Above the mantle is the crust, the area that supports most life.
Although it occurs slowly over very long periods of time, the rocks and minerals that make up the Earth are in continuous motion, similar to what happens when one mixes the ingredients of a cake.
Differences in temperature and pressure within the Earth, along with several other factors, drive this dynamic mixing process.
Over eons of time, portions of the Earth, once exposed to the atmosphere, are returned to the planet's interior, while others that have been trapped below are moved to the surface.
Although earthquakes and volcanic eruptions are quite dramatic, the dynamic circulation of elements and minerals need not be so apparent. Over millions of years, and almost imperceptibly, parts of large crusts called tectonic plates slowly sink into the mantle, while other areas emerge.
Humans disrupt the natural recycling process of elements and minerals by extracting certain materials they find useful or can be made into products that can be sold for a profit.
We are the only species that takes more substances from the Earth than needed for survival.
Ore refers to a rock containing a large concentration of an element that can be mined for profit. Iron is an example of such an element that has been put to use for the sole benefit of the human species.
Although the Earth is like a general store full of life-sustaining elements and minerals, we must keep in mind that there are no supply ships arriving from space to fill the empty shelves.
The amount of iron, or any element or mineral, is limited. For this reason, such substances extracted from the Earth are considered non-renewable resources.
The estimate of how much of a particular resource is in the Earth and available for extraction is referred to as its reserves.
Obviously, substances such as iron, gold, and copper do not come out of the ground already looking like bicycles, jewelry, or bowls. Instead, the materials need to be processed or refined.
Some of the steps involved in using mineral resources include mining extraction, processing, transportation, purification, manufacturing, use, and eventually discarding.
Each step of this process contributes to environmental degradation.
The refining process, or steps taken to make the mineral useful, often produces solid and hazardous waste, along with creating soil, water, and air pollution.
Some equally important but often overlooked consequences of extracting mineral resources are the various pollution scenarios associated with the actual use and ultimate disposal of the product itself.
There are many types of mining, on the surface and below the ground, most of which have severe impacts on existing ecosystems. How materials are mined depends on the resource itself, as well as the composition and topography of the land.
Surface mining efforts can devastate huge areas of terrain. It's not uncommon for entire mountaintops to be removed or for enormous open pits to be created that are miles in diameter and hundreds of feet deep in order to extract a valuable resource.
Subsurface mining that removes mineral resources using a series of tunnels and shafts presents a high occupational risk along with its own set of environmental problems.
It's not hard to see that human greed and a prevailing value system based on economic growth encourages the extraction of mineral resources. However, it's not just a matter of economics that should have us concerned as these materials become depleted.
If the reserves of certain substances in the earth reach critically low levels, ecosystems will inevitably fail.
Recall from our discussions regarding nutrient cycling that life is dependent on a reliable and constant cycling of certain materials, such as water, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur.
If these cycles are disrupted, organisms will no longer have access to the nutrients essential for their survival, and populations will decline or be eliminated from their ecosystems.
Economists often speak in terms of depletion time, or the time it takes to use up a certain portion of a reserve, and this demonstrates how far detached humans are from nature.
There was once a time when all species took what they needed to survive, and when their bodies died, all was returned to the earth.
Try to imagine the abundance of materials that have gone into creating just one city.
Those buildings, roads, and bridges are not returning back to the earth with their makers. Even if all people were removed from the planet today, it would take millions of years for natural processes to return the mineral resources that have been extracted back to the earth.
When it comes to equitable resource use, we are a very selfish species.
I guess we can be thought of as a species of pirates, obsessed with buried treasure. Here is your question for Unit 18.
Our prevailing growth-based economic system,
Choice A, encourages the extraction of mineral resources.
Choice B, is disrupting critical nutrient cycles.
Choice C, is accelerating the loss of biodiversity.
Or Choice D, all of the above statements are correct.
The answer and explanation are provided at the beginning of Unit 19.